I'm Logan Webb, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the three-time world champion, San Francisco Giants. With hosts Chad King and Eric Nathanson. This is TortureCast.
It's Thursday, September 7th, 2023, and this is episode 288 of the TorchCast, the podcast by and for fans of the suddenly not streaking, plummeting, jumping off a cliff San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad, and joining me from, is it the surface of the sun this week, or is it a little further off? Is it more like, just warm there? I have Eric Nathanson on the line.
We're currently at Mercury status, so at least it's turned down a notch. The Giants are back to where they're, we're back to where we're comfortable here in the heat, and the Giants are back to where they're comfortable, right at 500. They're an average baseball team playing average baseball again. It's really been something. This last weekend was really tough to take. It just felt like a nail in the coffin. It was really tough. So I'm a little bummed about the Giants, but as we were talking pre-show, I don't want to be too bummed out the whole way. Let's look for positives that are going on right now, and look at September and see if they have a shot.
Yeah, the Giants have literally regressed to the mean because they are 500 exactly. And this is something when they were, I think, a season high 13 games over 500. I never thought this was going to happen, Eric. We knew they were going to have a tough August. We knew they were going to run the gauntlet. But the record has been so poor over the last few weeks, including now. They've lost 6 in a row, and it's still going. If they lose tonight, we're going to 7. I never thought this was going to happen. I thought for certain they were going to be finishing the season over 500. Now, again, at the beginning of the year when we did our predictions, we were all just north of 500. But now that might not even happen, Eric. If this team continues to underperform like it has been, this is going to be a sub 500 team. I think that's actually a very likely scenario now for this team.
Yeah, it all depends on how they play against these inferior teams the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Because teams like the Cubs and the Padres and even the Reds and the Braves all recently kind of, I know they took 2 or 3 from the Reds, but it still felt like the Reds might be a little better than them. The Reds are kind of where the Giants are at. They're fluctuating around 500 a lot. So, yeah. But it felt like the Padres, the Cubs, the Braves really showed them, what it's like to be a real Major League ball club at this time. And they did not. I mean, they even talked about it, though, after one of the losses. I think the first one in Chicago, Webb or Yaz came out and said something about how, the guys aren't as into it or something to that effect. Don't quote me. And, they had a talk where they need to get their heads back into the games and stuff like that. Yeah, after they didn't get past first base against Justin Steele. And then they went out and they hit. They got 8 runs the next day, but they still lost by 3. I mean, if they were losing these games like 2-1, 3-1, it'd be one thing. But 7-3, 6-1, 4-0, 5-0, 8-2. I mean, that's ridiculous. They scored 8 runs finally against the Cubs the other day, the most runs they've scored since August 23rd, and they still lost.
Yeah, like you said, that was a tough one to watch because their pitching hasn't been horrific. Their offense has been the main culprit. They've scored the fewest amount of runs since June 25th in all of baseball. As of a couple of days ago, the A's were 30 runs ahead of the Giants in second to last place. So it's not like they were really close to 29th. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's been bad. And back-to-back shutouts. Yeah, then they got an 8-run spot, but their defense absolutely let them down. Just tanked it. You had Jock Peterson having no business in left field. Overrunning that fly ball like
that one play
like little leaguers do, right? And then you had Casey Schmidt throwing in the dirt in the same inning, and that's where the Cubs put up a big crooked number there. And it was frustrating because you don't have that ball dropped. It's 2 outs and no one on, and Tyler Rogers probably gets through the inning. Maybe, but instead, the guy gets on, boom, jack, and it just kind of all unravels from there. And Yeah, they could have won that game with the run support they had, but their defense was really who let them down on that one. It's just overall, Eric. It's really tough to watch this team. Their offense is just non-existent. Their batting average, they're like right down near the Mendoza line as a team in the second half, which is just unheard of for a whole team to be hitting just barely above 200. I don't have any fixes. I mean, obviously, if there was a fix, they'd be implementing them right now. But they're hurting in a serious way, and I know that Gabe's still going to be the manager next year. But I don't know if what if they really tank the rest of the season? Do you think anything happens, or do you think they just kind of wipe their hands of it and say, okay, let's forget about 2023 and let's move on to 24 and give us one more shot with Cap?
Well, what I'm starting to wonder now is, are Kepler and Farhan okay with just being mediocre and
Yeah.
having possible breakout seasons, every once in a while? Uh, they're 180 and 182 in every season but 2021 since Gabe and Farhan have taken over. So they're a straight average ball club. I mean, 2 games under 500. It's ridiculous that they're back at 70 and 70 here again. And so you have to wonder, is that the philosophy? Hope you catch lightning in a bottle one year, or is the philosophy to finally develop this talent that we've been waiting on? Luis Matos, Patrick Bailey's been, a breath of fresh air that he's turned into what he's turned into, and they're taking swings with the young kids and bringing guys up. So I don't think they're going to really shut it down and just try to play the young kids. I mean, Bart and Matos are back up with the big club, but it's September, roster's expanded, 2 more guys. So that wasn't as much, I feel like Ramos should be with the big club. It's frustrating, but I digress. But to get back to with what this season is, I mean, they're 2.5 out of the wild card. They are the 6th seed in the wild card race right now. They have to leapfrog Cincinnati, Arizona, and Miami to just get into the wild card race. The Cubs are 3.5 up on Miami. I don't think anybody's catching Philly and the Cubs. I think they're both pretty much locks for the playoffs at this point. So you've got Miami, Arizona, Cincinnati, and the Giants all fighting out for one spot. And I just can't see a scenario where the Giants come out on top of all that. Somebody between those other teams is going to get hot. The Giants are going to have to go 6-0 this week against Colorado and Cleveland to even dream about doing anything at this point.
Yeah, I think we agree on that one. The problem is, again, you look at 2.5 games and they have 22 to play. You go, okay, well, you can make up 2.5 games in 22 games, of course. But you just cited the big problem. They have 3 teams they need to pass. 3. And here's the problem with that. When you have 3 teams, most likely the averages dictate not all 3 are going to be under 500, correct? One of them, at least one of them, is going to play fairly well. And that's what the rub is going to be. We looked at years past. Last year, 87 wins got in for the 3rd wild card. 86 didn't. 86 made it in the AL. Years past, even though we didn't have this wild card system in, we noted that 86 is kind of the lower echelon of a record that you'd need to get in. Some years it's been as high as 90, 92, 93 even. So let's say that 86 is what they're shooting for, and that's no guarantee, by the way. That's just a number. They would have to go 16-6 just to get to that number. And I'm telling you right now, Eric, I don't see this team going 16-6. That's 10 games over 500 in the next 22. That's playing well over 750 ball.
Yeah, not when you've got the Dodgers for 7, Padres for 3 more, and the Diamondbacks for 2 more. I just don't see it happening. They get Colorado, Cleveland, then Colorado for a stretch here, but after that, and they might eke out a little bit. What is that? 9 games, so 10 games. So maybe instead of 75 and 75, they'll be like 76 and 74, or 77 and 73, and people will be like, oh, they still have a chance. And then they'll play the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Dodgers again, and that's where and the Diamondbacks, and that's where I fear that they might run into problems. But I mean, if they can't hit, they're not going to beat Colorado and Cleveland this week, anyways. I mean, you really did touch on what's the most frustrating thing. I was looking at numbers earlier for pitching, and the Giants relievers have thrown the most innings, and they have the most strikeouts, but they're still in the top three of strikeouts per 9. They're still the best team in strikeout to walk ratio as relievers. So knowing that the staff is a Johnny Hole staff, relievers are getting the bulk innings going on most of the time right now. You can't really blame them.
No.
Like you said, Tyler Rogers the other day. I mean, it happened. Things snowballed, and it's bound to happen. Camilo had his bad stretch where he blew 4 saves in 4 consecutive games, which was just crazy. I mean, those you can't have things like that happen when you don't have a full, well-rounded team, and that's where the Giants are. They just don't have the hitting aspect of it. And they don't have the defensive aspect of it either. 2 out of 3 aspects of the game, they just are not doing well at. It's simply amazing to me sometimes that they are 70-70. That was just an amazing run in June. June swoon didn't happen this year. It saved itself for August and September.
Yeah. What kind of makes me a little nervous too is not just missing the playoffs, which, by the way, Baseball Reference, of course, keeps their playoff odds. And they've been high most of the season. They have precipitously dropped off the last month or two. In fact, they're down to 13% to even make the postseason. So Baseball Reference is doing their numbers, and they're like, yeah, Giants ain't making it. This is a 33% drop in 30 days. Okay? They were at 46% 30 days ago, and they were at 75% 60 days ago. A 62% drop in 2 months. So the numbers bear it out. The competition is there. The wild card, division, if you will, playoff race is crowded with 6 teams, and only 3 are going to make it. So, and right there, like you said, Philly and Chicago have really separated themselves. So they're going to be really tough to catch for anyone. Miami's currently 3.5 behind Chicago and 5 behind Philly. And the Giants are now, 7.5 behind Philly? Remember, they used to be ahead of Philly less than 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Man, in fact, at one point...
Right around the time they played each other.
Yeah. At one point, the Giants were 2.5 games back of the Dodgers. We just talked about it a couple of episodes ago, practically. Hey, maybe they can go for the division. Oops. It's like the gods heard us talk about it and go, the Giants go for the... Yeah, here are the real Giants, right? But yeah, now they've just plummeted in the race. And now they had 3 of 4 taken from them in San Diego. San Diego ain't going to be a wild card, but they have the distinct possibility of actually passing the Giants. It's a low chance, but it could happen. They're only 4.5 behind the Giants now, and that's shocking to me. They were so far behind a few weeks ago.
And they got three to play head-to-head, too, so they can just make up most of the ground on their own.
Yeah, so, that's not going to be a good pill to swallow if the Giants, get even worse and they fall somehow behind the Padres. That would just... Ugh.
Well, here's some playoff odds, okay? The Cincinnati Reds, of these 4 teams that we're talking about, the Cincinnati Reds, according to Baseball Reference, have 38.2% chance to make the postseason. That is the best of the 4 teams fighting for that spot. And I'll tell you why, too.
Schedule?
Real quick, side tangent on Cincinnati. It's so soft. They've got their schedule for the rest of the season is St. Louis, Detroit, the Mets, the Twins, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, St. Louis.
Oh, my God.
Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Detroit, St. Louis, the Mets. They've got some cupcakes. So it totally makes sense that they, at 38.2%, have the highest percentage. The Marlins are at 35.4%. They're the second highest, according to Baseball Reference, of these 4 teams. And looking at their schedule, they've got... they get to play Philly head-to-head, so that probably helps their cause a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got a tough one. They've got Milwaukee a bunch. They've got Atlanta. But they get to finish out against the Mets and the Pirates, so that could help them. But and the Diamondbacks are at 21.8%. And you said the Giants are down to 13.3%.
Yeah.
4th by a mile. The Reds have a 25% better chance of making the playoffs than the Giants do, and that's the one spot that's left. So it's a real tough road to climb at that point. I mean, you can't expect 3 of these teams to play like Arizona has sometimes, because Arizona is the only other team that's kind of like the Giants. They're streaky as hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the saddest epitaph to this season, should they not make the playoffs, which it's not looking likely, is that they were in such a great position to make the playoffs. They controlled their own destiny. They led the wild card race by 5 games at one point, and things were looking pretty good. Yeah. We were thinking at the time, especially when they were, 10, 11, 12 games above 500, even if they cruise and just stay 500 the rest of the year, they're probably going to make it, you know? But it really was August and now September, which they're winless in this month, which is crazy. Here we are, September 7th. And by the way, the Marlins have won 6 in a row. The Giants have lost 6 in a row. And the Marlins have that third spot, 2.5 ahead of the Giants. So look at that. 6 games in 6 days. You know, that's how quickly things have changed. That is
I really felt like the
insane.
Marlins were out of it just a short while ago. That's what's so weird about that. I was
Yeah.
like, the Marlins, it's really going to come down to the Diamondbacks, the Reds, and the Giants. And I thought maybe the Reds and the Giants. And then September happened, and we all want to turn into Green Day and just go to sleep and wake us up when it's over if this is what it's going to be. Because I mean, they haven't even been involved. Forget just losing, but they haven't even been involved in a one-run game since August 22nd.
Oh, wow.
It's September 7th. Yeah, that we're talking 2 full weeks since they've been involved in a one-run game. So a game that's just close. I mean, the 11-8 game is the closest thing to a close game they've had lately. They lost that game to Philly, by the way. But you know, those games of taking 2 out of 3 in a series where they, like Boston, where they won 2 out of 3, where it was all 3 games were 1 runs. That's not happening anymore. They're just getting beat soundly at this point. And I think that's what makes it. I don't know. It's either harder. This is a really good question. So, I'm curious about fan interest. Is it waning? Like, have you found yourself watching less because they faded like they have over the last couple of months, or are you tuning in more, still invested to see if they have a playoff spot, or do you? I mean, like this. I guess that's the question: is the season over? Like, how are you treating
Yeah.
it?
I certainly have less motivation to watch. I still watch when I can, that is, just because I love the sport and I love the team. That said, in its own kind of microcosm, yeah, it's almost like a feeling of dread now, you know? It's like, great, what's going to happen tonight that's going to prevent them from winning, right? Great. How long is it going to be till they get their first hit? Great. What's the over under for number of hits tonight? 4? Like, seriously. That's kind of how I'm approaching all these games now, because they're just so anemic on the offensive side. It's hard to get excited about the games. I love good pitching, don't get me wrong, but when your team has pretty good pitching and then just crappy offense, the game's not that exciting. It's just not. It's like, oh, yeah, my team retired the other side in order. Great. But here's my side, my team striking out, 3 in a row. So, like, yay. So it's not
Well,
a high quality product on the field right now. And we've talked about this before too. The roster just seems to be churning over and over and over again. They are developing some young players, which is kind of their whole goal with this Farhan regime. And it takes years to develop that farm system, and it is getting better. And we've seen obviously flashes of brilliance from Casey Schmidt and Matos and others. And now it looks like Bailey's here to stay. Of course, now he's on the 7-day concussion IL. So they did call up Joey Bart, which I wasn't sure if that was ever going to happen unless there was an injury. And here we
yeah,
are. Um,
with an
but the
injury.
roster itself you look at it and you look at the lineup every day and you're just like, ugh, there's just nothing to look at. It's plain. It's not exciting. It's like a saltine cracker, of baseball. It's just meh.
So what were you doing a little over a week ago when Alex Cobb was twirling a no-hitter against Cincinnati? Did you watch from the beginning? Did you tune in at all? Did you miss the game? Because that was like the only highlight of since the last time we recorded. That's the high point. I mean,
Yeah.
because we recorded right after the Atlanta series and the Cincinnati series was starting, and that Alex Cobb, no-hitter, 8 2/3 was just, definitely the high point. Because since then they literally only won 1 game.
Thanks for reminding me. I actually did want to bring up there was 3 good days in a row that I had with Giants baseball.
Yep.
The first being I covered the game, and this is the one on Sunday Night Baseball, in which the Giants not only won the game, but they had all of the players that came out to give a tribute to clubhouse manager Mike Murphy. And I went down to the dugout and did some pregame stuff with Kapler, watched some batting practice. I walked down the tunnel, and then right there, 5 feet in front of me is Barry Bonds chilling in a chair talking with and I'm just like, I just want to reach out and talk to you. But of course I didn't, right? And I ran into a few others that I just saw in the hallways, just, Will Clark again and Robbie Thompson and others. I didn't get a chance to interview any of them. They were very busy, but That was just cool. I was just geeking out because these are my childhood, heroes from the Giants in the 80s. So that was really neat to see. And of course, they won the game. Afterwards, the next night, you had Harrison's debut, Kyle Harrison, and he was not his home debut. It was his second start. And he was just electric,
Right.
wasn't he? He was magic. And it was a hell of a performance by Harrison. And we're like, wow, this kid he's got something special on him. And then the very next start, he went and just got tanked. So that was short-lived.
Totally bound to happen, though. He had two good, decent starts, puffed up, and then he has to face Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. You kind of could see it coming.
Yeah, he gave up 4 bombs against the Padres. That was not good. And then the third night, of course, was Alex Cobb. And no, I did not watch the game from the beginning, and I did tune in the 8th inning. And saw him get the side in order, including that fantastic catch by Slater, which was just like, once Slater made that catch, I thought it was happening, right? Because every no-hitter or perfect game has at least one of those. At least it seems like. And, of course, Matt Cain's did, right? We all know about that with Gregor Blanco out in right field, somehow tracking that ball down. Still don't know how he did it to this day. And then you go to the 9th inning, and he gets the first 2 guys no problem. And I'm like, this is it. It's actually happening. We're getting another no-hitter. This is awesome. And right when, I forget his name, who hit the ball. Right when he hit it, I was like, oh, that's in a gap, right? You could just see the angle leave the bat. I was like, oh, shit, that's in the gap. And then you turn and you see Matos kind of running after it, and you're like, is he going to dive? No, never mind. He was like, he kind of put his glove out and was like, eh. And he wasn't that far from the ball. And in fact, the metrics put it at like a 30% chance of catching. And the fact that the metrics ruled or calculated that it was a 30% chance, that was much higher than I would have initially thought. But that also tells me that some other fielders would have had that. You know what I mean? And it was just a shame
Mike Yastrzemski.
Yeah, Mike Yastrzemski was brought up, absolutely. And it's also one of those things where I'm not blaming him at all. It's not his fault for not diving after it. I just would have liked to have seen just a little bit more effort, just because that's what it is. It's a no-hitter. Just lay your body out. Do it. And kind of just waved at it. Was like, oh, man, come on, man. At least got to dive.
Yeah, Matos hasn't been as fast as I thought he was.
No.
With Cobb, Spencer Steer got the hit. And it was a beautiful piece of hitting. It really was. He knew Cobb was going to throw him the sinker. I mean, Cobb had 13 ground ball outs on the night. So he knew he was going to throw it, and he went with the pitch. He stayed, to make contact at the right point with the ball to drive it to the opposite field instead of trying to hook around and pull it and turn it over. It was a great piece of hitting, and it was a great night, Cobb. And you're right, that 3-night run, that was like, that might have been as good as it gets this season. It really might. That was just unbelievable. And then the very next day they go out and it all ends.
Well,
I don't remember what they did the next
No,
day.
they won the first game against San Diego, so they actually had won 4 in a row at one point. And so that's why I thought, oh my God, they're going to make a run here, right? And it was those 3 really great games in a row, and then they go on the road and they win the first one in San Diego, and I'm thinking, all right, they got and then they lost, and that was it. I was like, okay, never mind. So what are you going to do, man? This team is streaky as hell. They win 10 in a row, they lose 7 in a row. They win 6 in a row, they lose 6 in a row. I mean, you just don't know where this team is going. But with 22 left, they desperately need one of those 8 in a row streaks, because it's the only way they're getting to that, 16 win total they need. And that's not even a guarantee, again, with 6 teams fighting. You might have a couple of teams north of 85. You might have, the last couple guys fighting at 87, 88 wins, maybe even 89. So by no means is this going to be easy. The Giants have made it extremely difficult on themselves with their performance in August and September. And it's been very disappointing from a fan's point of view, especially, I think, at the beginning of the season, if you told me they were 70 and 70 at this point, I'd be like, okay. But it's where they were, It's the hill they achieved, the precipice they were on, and then they just shit the bed, plain and simple.
Well, it's also the way they've just lost these 3 games against the Padres and against the Cubs. They got schooled by the Cubs. It was very much like when the Braves, took them to the Cubs actually were better than the Braves were in either series that they played the Braves in. I mean, like it did not seem at any point when the Giants were hitting the ball in that one game that the lead was secure or that they were definitely going to win. Like it felt like the Cubs were always going to attack. They were just relentless. And the Padres, I mean, how the hell are the Padres so bad? I don't understand it. I mean, with that lineup and their pitching staff is unbelievable. Like, I don't get how they're 4.5 games behind the Giants at this point. Somewhere their season went wrong. I don't know what it was. But, like, those two teams showed that they're better teams than the Giants. And I think that that's really what cuts to it the last few days. And that's where the feeling of, where we're just kind of throwing our hands in the air, because when you just see night after night, the Giants just, get taken to task by the other team, it gets disheartening after a while. It really does.
Yeah,
But it'll be fun to watch the Rockies this weekend because it'll be nice to see fodder.
yeah, but the Giants might be the fodder. You know what I mean? What do they say?
Yeah.
If you can't find the idiot in the room, then you're the idiot.
It's
kinda
you.
like that. It's you. If you can't find the bad team in the room, well, yeah. The Padres are weird. They're enigma, riddle, and a mystery all wrapped up into one. They have just a star-studded lineup, ridiculously high payroll. But here's the reality: they're 9 games under 500, something like that.
Yeah.
But they're plus 64 in the run differential department, which is insane. And that actually their Pythagorean kind of calculation on where they should be is 77 and 64, which would put them only 1 game behind Philly. Like, that's where they should be.
How does that even happen? How is
I
a
don't
team
know.
that much different from what the projection is to what their actual record is? I mean, I can't think of any other team in recent memory that's had a season like that. It's just unbelievable what they've done.
Yeah, they are 11 games worse than they're expected. That's crazy. For that matter, the Giants are actually better than they're expected. They're expected as 68 and 72. So they're 2 games ahead of
Yeah,
them.
they're like -6 or -8 in run differential right now. So,
Minus 19 now.
oh shit, it's even worse than I thought.
Yeah. It's not
Yikes.
good. It's not good. Only Philly and Chicago are positive differentials in the wild card race. Philadelphia is a plus 69. Chicago a plus 101. That's actually pretty
Yeah,
good. The Dodgers are
they've been the second
156.
best scoring team. Yeah,
Yeah.
Chicago's been the second best scoring team in baseball since the break, and their record is right up there, matched with the Mariners, who've been absolutely on fire, and the Dodgers since the All-Star break. It's really kind of amazing.
Yeah, and here's the thing about the Cubs, who were a laughingstock not that long ago. Not only have they propelled themselves right into the thick of the wild card race, they're only a game and a half behind Milwaukee for the central
Yep.
lead. So, I mean,
I gotta say, I hate to say it, but watching them, these young guys were coming through for them. You know what I mean? It's the kind of thing that you want to see out of the Giants.
yeah,
Is these young guys that are coming up through their system. And let me tell you, the Cubs have had some swings and misses this year. They brought some guys up that looked fantastic and didn't pan out. They've had to reduce the roles of longtime Cubs players to let some of the young kids play. So they haven't stuck with status quo, and I'm kind of jealous to see what they've been doing over there. Like, I'd love to see some of Farhan's projects. So that's why I'm good with the young guys playing the rest of the season. Like,
yeah,
I'd fine, screw it, put Matos out there as much as possible. I don't care. Casey Schmidt, get him as many at bats as possible. That's fine. I don't care. Get him out there. That's totally what I want to see right now. Joey Bart, even if he gets if he gets at bats in September now, since Bailey's on the shelf, give him a chance to get at bats. Why
yeah.
not? Give all the kids a chance to play. I know they're only 2.5. I know they're 70 and 70, but my money's on the Reds taking the wild card, the third wild card, and the Giants aren't gonna. If they keep playing like this, they're not gonna beat anybody. It's frustrating. It's tough to watch. Like you though, I watch the games when I can. I've been tuning in a lot lately, especially this Cubs series. I watched as much as possible
Hmm.
because it's Wrigley, which is one of my homes. But I hope we're gonna really be told. They got a weekend series against Colorado and then Cleveland during the week, so we'll see how attendance is. Again, the Cubs is a great example. They went out, they signed Dansby Swanson, they signed Cody Bellinger. Look at these great, one star, a complimentary piece that could be a star, and they're young guys. They've got pitching at the top, a regular rotation. Sorry, I'm so jealous of the Cubs right now. It's sickening.
Yeah, that Steel kid. Whew, man. He's a stud.
Why, he's something else. They got the Wicks kid yesterday that didn't strike anybody out in the first 5 innings is a fireballer. And the guy strikes out people all the time. It was just weird that happened. Like, Hendricks was the one who pitched like crap. He's like their worst pitcher now. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's
the
like
Giants,
Logan Webb. Logan Webb's the Giants' worst pitcher right now. They don't win when he goes out there. You know, he's given up 2-3 long balls just about every start. It's frustrating. And then again, pitching. Sorry, I'm totally off on a rant about stuff, but Cobb is not making his next scheduled start, and he came out after the 3rd inning in his last start. The second to last pitch that he made, he turned around and winced. You could see it on his face. You could see something was wrong. The very next pitch, he got a double play and he got out of the inning, and he didn't come back out. And now the Giants are saying, for the weekend series, that is Harrison on Friday, Webb on Saturday, and to be determined for Sunday, which is supposed to be Cobb's spot. So
Lovely.
now Cobb, after the no-hitter. Right, after the no-hitter. But I also, I love the no-hitter moment, and I don't blame them for going for it. I really don't. But it's just a shame. That's what's going to happen. We finally feel a little better with Harrison, joining the rotation. But Webb's been shaky. Now Cobb might be out again. So, it just makes it a little bit tougher. The relievers can only hang on so long before we see things like Tyler Rogers giving up a home run to, I think it was Amaya, who's like, who the hell was that guy,
Yeah, I hope going for the no-hitter doesn't have any lasting repercussions on Cobb's health, because I think he threw 135 pitches that night. And he commented several times in the interview that he felt like it was 135 pitches. He was dog tired out there. So hopefully that doesn't have any impact. He's no
spring chicken out there. You know what I mean? He's if they want to make sure he stays healthy, they usually try to limit his pitch count to around 100. So that was letting the leash loose. So we'll see if they push him back or if he ends up with an IL stint like everybody else.
Yeah, Farhan Zaidi was recently asked about the lack of performance, and they kind of highlight here the fact that the Giants do rank last in the majors in the second half since the All-Star break in runs scored, batting average at .216, homers, and on-base percentage. And this is over 49 games. I mean, this is a huge stretch, right? This is a third of a season. And quote, Zaidi says, "When I look back over the last few years, I can't remember a stretch like this offensively, maybe even since 2019. It's been tough, but I just think we have the personnel. It was the same group of players essentially that were a good offensive team for the first half of the season. That's where we have the confidence that we can turn it around." Well, okay, but maybe not, because 50 games is a long time, buddy. Like, could they figure it out? Sure. But the whole team at the same time, except for one Wilmer Flores, who's like one of the best freaking hitters in all of baseball right now. In fact, he just hit his career high 21st home run last night, which was great.
But that points to the problem. Wilmer's been their best player again this year. And he's a role player. The role player shouldn't be the best player on the team. No. Somebody else should be taking that kind of mantle.
No, he doesn't play every day, which is kind of frustrating on that. So the Giants have had a couple of team meetings. Of course, we know about Thairo Estrada. That was actually at the game that I covered. It wasn't mentioned until after the game. Actually, Gabe mentioned it in his post-game interview, and so everybody waited for Thairo Estrada to come out through with his interpreter, and he explained basically, it was a pep talk. But that didn't really last too long, right? They've had the same thing, Kapler called in Yaz and Flores on Monday to try to get the slumping lineup to be more aggressive at the plate. That's not having any lasting impact. I don't know what they're going to do, man. There's only so many team meetings you can have when it loses its impact, right? If you're always having team meetings.
There's no substitute. Right. There's no substitute for talent. They just lack the talent. That's really what it comes down to. And when you put together a patchwork group of guys that are injury prone and they all get injured, not that every one of them is really injury prone, but I mean, Haniger, who's shocked by that. They already let AJ Pollock go.
I was going to mention that. Forever Giant.
He had 3 more at-bats than Dan Ugla.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things when you put together a team like that where you're hoping, and that brings all the way back around to like one of the first points I brought up when we started this show today. them being 180 and 182 in all the seasons outside of 2021,
Yeah.
is that what we should just get used to? Are they just a mediocre team? And if they catch lightning in a bottle, they do. Otherwise, we're just supposed to accept mediocrity. And that's what it seems right now. And I think that that's what kills the vibe on it. And that's what makes, being a Giants fan just really is a frustrating experience overall at this point. I can't lay the blame at Gabe for the hitters not hitting. He can't go out there and swing the bat for them.
Yeah. No, this isn't good. 1-6 on the road trip. They're outscored in their 6-game losing streak, 41-14. They're 9-21 since August 5th. 9-21, dude. That's 300 ball. Not good.
Well, we called it. We said August is going to tell the tale, and it did. It really showed. It separated the men from the boys, and the Giants are a bunch of boys.
Yeah, when we look back, if they do indeed miss the playoffs, we're just going to look at August and go, well, if you remove that month, the Giants are in the playoffs.
Yep.
But that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You got to play all the teams in all the months. So, it's, we don't mean to be doom and gloom, everyone. We're just kind of calling it like it is. I think there's still hope, but that hope is dwindling fast. And they need to turn it around now. And I'm not kidding, Eric. They need to sweep the Rockies. This whole winning 2 out of 3 might not even gain them a game in the wild card standing, right? Because Miami could win 2 out of 3, or Cincinnati, or Arizona. It's like you need to start really making up some ground here. And the only way you do that, you got to start putting these massive winning streaks together. And who else better to start with but the worst team in the National League at home? The Giants will have them at home. So, hopefully they can do something like that.
Yep.
But
a team they've beaten up on in the past too, but who knows how that applies right now.
Yeah, and then the Guardians come in as well, and they're not doing so well this year either. But as we found out, that doesn't always matter. I mean, the Giants lost 2 in a row to the A's, That happens. So it's just bad.
So frustrated.
But we do have Joey Bart and Luis Matos were called from AAA, of course, because Bailey went down. And Wade Meckler was also optioned to AAA. By the way, I know he looks small on screen. I mistook him for a bat boy when I was in the park. I'm not joking. I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm being 100% honest. I looked over and I said,
poor kid.
I'm like, damn, that bat boy's got a mustache handlebar thing going on. Oh, that's Meckler. Holy shit. He's like 150 pounds dripping wet. So I was sitting right on the dugout, right in the back wall against the New Era logos and all that. And I was writing some notes down and watching some batting practice. And I saw him from afar, and that's where I initially thought he was a bat boy. But then he comes down the dugout and he walks, 2 feet in front of me, just right into the dugout because he's going over to do something with his helmet or his equipment or whatever. And he's wearing just a Giants black batting practice shirt and his pants. And I just could not get over how small he is. He is not only short, but he's just bones. He has no meat on him, no fat, no muscle, no nothing. His pants, it's like those old men pants, they're kind of jacked up a little higher. And he had no butt, it was just he looks like a kid. He looked like an underdeveloped teenager. I'm like, how is this guy in the major leagues with that body? It's insane. But that's because he's been tearing it up in the minor leagues, hitting almost 400. That's why they called him up.
Well, to give him some credit, when he first came up, he really struggled. He struck out a ton, and he's made adjustments. He's walking more. He's striking out less. He's putting the ball in play. Granted, when he hits it, it doesn't go far, but that's not really the point right now. And he's making decent plays out in the outfield. He seems to have an aptitude for learning on the fly and correcting mistakes when he makes them. So I kind of see what the Giants saw in him and why they rose him as much as possible, because he really does seem to understand the game. The problem, like you said, is he's 5'2" and 146 pounds, so it makes it a little tougher to equate those skills into that body. But I got to give him credit. There's a positive for you, Giants fans. I got to give Wade Meckler credit. I felt like he improved the last few weeks, even when the Giants were not doing so well. He seemed to do the little things pretty well.
Yeah, he was riding a little bit of a hot streak. He came in really cold, and everyone was arguing for him to be set down. And then he suddenly figured it out, and he raised his average all the way to 272 at one point. And it was kind of like you turn around, you're like, wow, he's already at 272. Unfortunately, he has gotten cold again, and he's down to 232. Thus, they're swapping kind of talent right now, Matos for Meckler, which is fine. I think he'll be back up again. Yeah, he's 3 for his last 22 right now. So that's kind of what's been going on with him. I don't know. I like him. But I always like the little guy, literally, to make it in these kinds of things. But man, it really hit me when I saw him in front of me. I thought he was the freaking Bat Boy.
He looks like he should be fixing cars in a garage. He really does.
Yeah. No, he's not. Doesn't have a lot of power. I know that. He hit 5 home runs this year in the minors in 253 at bats. So that's never going to be.
That shocks me.
I know.
That is shocking information. I can't believe he hit 5 home runs.
And overall, he has 6 in his career in 332 at bats. So yeah.
Was he playing in Williamsport? That is freaking amazing.
I just love how quickly he came up. He's a 2022 draftee, and he just went. He's insane, absolutely insane. But good for him, In 2022, he played for Arizona rookie ball, then San Jose Giants in Class A, and then 2023 he was promoted and he played with Eugene, then Richmond, then Sacramento. And here are the number of games. This is crazy. Okay, these are the number of games he played at each level. Arizona 12, San Jose 11, Eugene 20, Richmond 39, Sacramento 10. I mean, 92 minor league games, Eric. 92. That's it. And then he was called to the majors.
Richmond's the only one longer than a month. That's amazing too.
Yeah, no, he just absolutely found his route fast to the pros. So he'll probably be back up again later this year, knowing their rotational staff. And I do need to. Do you have an update on number of players on the roster this year? I forgot to look that up.
I can look. I'm on. Am I on the right page? No, I'm not on the right page, but I will be in a sec because I'm totally deep in Baseball Reference. All right, let's see where we're at. Is that correct? 51? Is that correct? That would make sense. 51 is what it lists.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the record last year? 65 last year? Was that it?
Matt Beattie. I totally forgot about that guy. He was on the opening day roster.
That's right.
My God.
That's right.
That's what's so crazy about it. Right, yeah, you never would have remembered that he was on the opening. Darren Ruff. You remember Darren Ruff came back for like 5 minutes. Wow.
Oh, man. It's amazing. Yeah,
David VR. You remember when the season started and he was supposed to be the third baseman of the future?
He was supposed to be our third baseman. He was supposed to be Matt Williams.
Yep. That's how he was being talked up. Instead, J.D. Davis now has a career high in at-bats and has evened out to regular career levels as well.
Yeah.
And he's got Lamont Wade. I give him credit, too. All right, so 51. Last year was 68, was it, or 69? This lists 66. So 66 maybe?
Yeah, okay. So they still have a little bit of work to do before they catch that number.
They're not going to make it.
I don't think they're going to make it. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be calling up or acquiring 14 new players in the next month. So,
yeah, on the Giants chatter preseason, the season preview show, we set an over/under, I think, at 60. I believe it was Chris Corbett's because I came up with the exact same one. And when we were texting before the show, it's everybody send me yours, and he sent his. I'm like, damn it, that is exactly what mine was going to be. And I think they're going to hit the under. I don't think they're going to clear an over on that one.
Yeah.
So, that's 51. That surprises me. I can't see 9 more different guys showing up this year. So that's going to probably top out at like 55 at most.
But if you get one more person on that roster, they have enough players to hypothetically have 2 full rosters play against each other.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Oh God.
2 26-man rosters. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
If it was 3 years ago, they'd already have 2 rosters. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Oh well, yeah. As we wind up here, it's going to be interesting the next 22 games. Again, you and I don't have the greatest of hopes. I think you highlighted a perfect reason why. They play the Dodgers 7 times and the Padres, which just seem to give them problems sometimes. That's 10 out of the 22 games right there. So in order to make that 16 mark or more, they have to sweep, these guys. You can't even just win 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 every series is actually not enough, hypothetically, right? Because how many? See, that's what's crazy about this. Really, when you break it down like that, that's where it gets scary. Let me look at their schedule real quick here. So we have, 3 Rockies, 3 Guardians, 4 at Colorado, 2 Diamondbacks, 4 at LA. That's the other thing. They're road games in LA.
Yeah.
Then 3 at home against the Padres, and then 3 at home against the Dodgers. So, you wrap up 7. Those last 10 games are all Dodgers and Padres. And so even if the Giants are somehow like a game back in the wild card at that point, they're not going to make it because they're going to get waxed, right? But if you look at this, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 series left. So even if you won 2 out of 3 of every series, and by the way, one's a 2-game series, one's a 4-game series, so they kind of even out. You can consider them all 3-game series, kind of in a way. If you consider that they won 2 out of 3 from every single series, that still only puts them at 7 games above 500. It's not enough. That's not enough. So out of those 7 series, they have to sweep. That's 2 of them, at least, because that'll add an extra 4 games to that total, and that'll put them at 11 games above 500. So, they got to win 2 out of 3 in 5, and then 2 other series they have to sweep. And, Eric, they're not going to even win all 7 series. They might not even win 3 of the 7 series the way they're playing. It's just atrocious.
That's the hole they dug themselves by losing 2 of 3, 2 of 3, 2 of 3, 2 of 3, and then finally 3 of 4 and 3 of 3 over the last week.
Yep.
It kind of it blew the problem out of proportion this last week. It didn't look as bad when they were just losing 2 out of 3 at a time, but to have the stretch where they lost it all together, it exacerbates it. And it doesn't help that I mentioned Logan Webb earlier, and we're going to wrap here in a minute. I'm not going to go sideways on Logan Webb. They haven't won a Logan Webb start since August 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Patrick Bailey's walk-off homer against Texas. They won the previous start before that against LA 8-3, but that was also the one where they scored 6 runs in the 9th inning against Charlie Sheen of the Angels. So again, they didn't give Logan Webb any backing and any sorts of things. And when they're not coming through, it's not just getting caned. I mean, he's putting them in position to win most of these games, and in frustrating fashion. So it's kind of amazing. He hasn't won a game in almost a month. Not even he hasn't won a game in almost a month. The team hasn't won. They've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight starts of his starts they've lost.
Yeah. And then in addition to that example I just gave about 7 series needing to not only win all of them essentially, but to sweep a couple of them, the Giants have lost 9 of their last 10 series. Ouch. That is
the only series win is against Cincinnati.
Yep, that's the only one. All of August, except for August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, they swept the Diamondbacks. They lost 2 to Oakland, 2 out of 3 to Anaheim, or LA, whatever. 2 out of 3 to the Rangers, 2 out of 3 to the Rays, 2 out of 3 to the Braves, 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, 2 out of 3 to the Braves. Then they won 2 out of 3 from Cincinnati.
2 out of 3.
Yeah. Lost 3 out of 4 to San Diego, and then got swept by the Cubs. There you go. That ain't going to cut it. So, all right, get out your brooms, baby. Let's go ahead and sweep the next 6 games. You know what that's sad is that if they sweep the next 2 series, that just puts them back to where they were 6 games ago because they've lost 6 in a row.
But chances are these teams are going to go 4-2, 5-1,
and that's the problem.
It's going to be tough.
If you're chasing one team and you have a good chance of them going cold, right? You're not going to have all 3 teams go cold. That's the issue. That sucks.
I think one of the best parts of being a Giants fan is Friday night, Kyle Harrison taking the hill. I heard that the crowd was electric last time when he had made his home debut. It reminded people of Lincecum. So just to, kind of wrap this in a positive, I'm going to end thinking positively and how excited I am to get to watch Kyle Harrison against, the Colorado Rockies and the Guardians then. Because if he's pitching the first game of a 6-game homestand, that means he'll pitch the back game of the same homestand. So we'll get a chance to see 2 Kyle Harrison starts at home. here during the homestand, and I'm kind of excited about that. I look forward to seeing what he can do because, it was very electric that night. It came through the television when he was pitching.
It really did. It really came through, that electricity in the air, and something we haven't seen or heard much of at Oracle Park this season. So it's going to be great to see him come out. So yeah, let's just kind of focus on the positives. We can't quite put the nail in the coffin yet of the Giants' playoff push, but it's on life support, and it's something I didn't expect a few weeks ago. I knew August was going to be rough. I didn't think it was going to be this rough. It was a little worse than I think
Well,
you
you
and I
said it.
both anticipated.
They beat the Diamondbacks in those 3 games to start the month, and we're like, okay, all right, they're in this. They're going to be okay. And now we're just kind of like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, it's just like got run over by a freight train, and every time they try to get up, they just get knocked back down. Any little sliver of hope just gets eroded by another, sweep or series loss, or, dropping balls in the field, or getting shut out 2 days in a row.
I mentioned Harrison. Then how about you? Give us something positive to watch for the Giants in this homestand.
I actually am looking forward to seeing how Joey Bart responds. He's been through a lot.
There you go.
Personally and professionally, and I think he has a lot to offer to the Giants in terms of if he can, put up or shut up, right? So, I mean, he hasn't been a vocal complainer. That's not what I'm insinuating. I'm just saying that I know it's tough for a guy who is the number, 5 pick in the draft or 3 pick in the draft to be relegated to the minors. But he just hasn't been able to prove it in the majors, So, but he's been hot down in AAA. So hopefully he can take that sustained campaign in AAA, because he was down there the whole season, and turn it into something good. While Patrick Bailey, because he has limited time, he's going to be up here for about a week, right? So he'll see the Rockies and the Guardians, and then he'll probably get sent right back down. So he's got to do something, spectacular, I think, to have people notice. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that.
It's not like the old September. Yeah, it's not the old September when they could just keep him on the roster because you have 40 players and you can carry 8 catchers.
Yeah.
With the 28 men, Kruko mentioned it the other night. That used to just be the standard. A third catcher would come up immediately on September 1st for every single team, and that's not happening anymore. They kept it at 2 catchers, with having Bailey and Sable, and then obviously now Bard. I hope Bailey feels better. I hope it doesn't affect the rest of his year. I'd like to see him finish strong, but honestly, we pretty much know Bailey's standing, so I like that with Bard. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely doesn't bring the same defense as Bailey has been, but he's still a solid defensive catcher. I just want to see some more offensive production out of him. He's a big boy, and he's been smashing him down in AAA.
Yeah.
Why? For some reason, he just can't make that leap to the majors. But you have guys like Bailey that could do that, right? I don't know. Yeah. It's frustrating. It is a different level, though. We all know that. So maybe he's just a quad A player. I don't know. There's some players that have that moniker, and it is what it is. But all right, well, that'll do it.
He's got the build of I was gonna say he's got like a Mac Williamson build.
He does.
I don't know why, but I always think of him in the very same scenario. You know what I mean? He's going to keep getting his chances when he can. Let's see if he ever does anything with them or keeps choking on them. So I'm with you. I'm excited to see that. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on the wrap.
No, not at all. But do you have anything going on right now with Giants chatter?
No, we really don't. We've all gotten busy as well lately and haven't even been able to.
I thought maybe I missed something, but
no. I mean, we talked about it in this episode, so it's just the Giants are sometimes borderline unwatchable, and we have had multiple times where somebody has started a recap, and in the 5th inning, texts the group and says, "Yeah, I'm out. I'm not doing this. I don't want to watch this crap anymore. I don't need to subject myself to this." And so we
jumping out of the airplane in mid-flight. It's like
pretty much.
Yeah, I took this assignment
to myself. So
yeah, I'm abandoning ship here. So that's freaking hilarious, dude.
I mean, because you're sitting there, you're bored to tears watching this team just go through the motions when there's a million other things to be doing in the world sometimes. So. We have dropped the ball a little bit, and we're going to try to get back on that again next year. I'm sure we'll have some discussions in the off season, but Coffee in the Cove also been on pause because I've been busy as hell. So nothing really going over at Giants Chatter except the regular day-to-day discussions about roster management and regular Giants stuff.
Yeah, it's normal. It happens. We've obviously the last 2 episodes we've been delayed in our own schedule as well. So I want to apologize to any of our listeners out there. it is what it is. Life does get in the way. We do this out of the goodness of our heart and our fandom for the Giants. So when things get in the way, sometimes they do take priority. But we're still going to be there.
Right.
We've been
So
around
thank
since
you
2011. So yeah, thank you everyone for continuing to listen.
for being patient.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. All right. Well, that will do it for episode 288. We'll be back with 289 hopefully next week. We'll see how that goes. I know our schedule's a little wonky, but for Eric, this is Chad signing off, and we'll see you then. Boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants.